All right. Lesson 9. We are in our last lesson together. I hope you are very sad because our time was so good, wasn't it? Amen. Okay. All right. So we'll get right into it. Today, the broad theme is going to be on eschatology. And what that simply means is the study of end or the study of last times. Okay. And so there's a lot of subtopics underneath that. What happens when we die? And what's going to happen when Jesus Christ returns? What are the events that are going to unfold? Glorification, that's another topic. And lastly, new creation. What will heaven look like? And so there's a lot of topics to cover. And that's the background I was so tempted to go with. If you are a Lord of the Rings geek like I am, just know that the Return of the King is loosely based on actually biblical theology of what's going to happen in the end times. And so as we go over the lesson, if you're really into this, you might see a lot of parallels, but if you're not, it's okay, whatever. But anyway, so we're going to be looking at eschatology. What is it? Eschatology is, like I said, the study of end times, and we think of eschatology in two ways. First, in a personal sense, personal eschatology. What will happen to me in the end times? We've been talking about the Ordo Salutis. We talked about election, justification, sanctification, and now we're going to be talking about the last thing. What's going to be the last stage of salvation for me? It's going to be glorification. So we'll be looking at eschatology from a personal lens, but we're also going to be looking at it from a cosmic lens. What is going to happen to the world? Because when you look into the Bible, I think we being Westerners, we emphasize a lot of personal eschatology, like what's going to happen to me personally. But the Bible is more interested in what's going to happen to the entire world. And that's a pretty relevant question because, as Leslie Newbegin says, he says, the way we understand human life, our own life, depends on what conception we have of the human story. What is the real story of which my life is a part? Eschatology is not just an icing on the cake, but it is essential for determining the purpose for why we live. If our eschatology is just what the American dream tells us, oh, you're going to raise kids and then you're going to grow old and then in your last couple decades, you'll retire, hopefully in Arizona, and then you die in old age and maybe you'll see your grandkids. And that's your personal eschatology. If that's all the eschatology that we think about and live for, oh man, there's going to be a rude awakening on the other side. And so we want to know, what does the Bible teach? And this is such an essential teaching. When you look into 1 Thessalonians, Paul, he planted a church there, meaning people became Christians for only a couple weeks, and then he had to leave. And so one of the first things that he taught the Thessalonian church was eschatology. He taught them what's going to happen in the end time so they knew exactly what they should live for. And I feel like these days, eschatology has become just the icing on the cake. And this church here is actually Notre Dame. And back in the day, they have this scene of the Last Judgment. We see Jesus here on the throne and all the saints surrounding him and the cherubim, and here are the saints, and they walk through and they remember every single day that they go to church. One day, I'm going to stand before the great white throne room of Christ, and I will give an account of my life. Every day they were reminded as the citizens of France would go into Notre Dame. And so I really hope that this lesson is very practical in forming just your outlook on life, on forming your purpose, your endeavors. And so I really think it's one that can really nourish us spiritually rather than just kind of tickling our curiosity of what's going to happen.